E360 TV proudly presents Messages of Inspirational Stories TV show. Live streaming now to millions of devices around the world on Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, Android TV, YouTube Live, Facebook live streaming. Our shows are available video on demand on these channels. And we broadcast daily, Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time on these channels. On Mondays, Expanding Your Business. Tuesdays, Natural Health and Wellness. On Wednesdays, we cover mentoring our youth. And on Thursdays, our new show, Ideas Worth Knowing. And on Fridays, Women in Leadership. To be able to watch our television show on your favorite device, please go to e360tv.com and download the app for your favorite device. Brought to you by our producers and hosts, Jim Grant and Donna Guinois. Along with our host, Beata Severin Reed and Emerson Brantley. Supported by our admin team of Michaela Vidal and Gaia Guinois Balconi Weda. And welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. The Messages of Inspirational Stories is proudly brought to you by the good guys at the 6minutewebinar.com. And Emerson and I, we're at a huge disadvantage. Our guest can hear me, but Emerson can't for some reason. I can hear Emerson, and we're going to try to work this out. So anyway, Emerson, I'm going to let you talk. We're going to do some sign language here.
Well, I'm not hearing you. I hope they're hearing me.
Oh, yeah. I hear you.
Man, we have a pretty special guest here today, you know.
Mm-hmm.
This is it's not often that we get a complete breakthrough in technology that isn't some really awesomely expensive thing for the first adapters or first adopters to use. But when you get something that is a breakthrough that is 20 or 30 years in the making, and not only that, it is a much more affordable breakthrough. That's an awesome opportunity for everybody, isn't it, Jim?
Yes, it is. It really is. And Emerson and I, we were both blown away when we were talking with Owen and him sharing all this wonderful information. So Emerson and I, we decided we had to have him on the TV show. And I'm looking forward to having Owen on the show. Let's bring him on board. You introduce him.
Well, you know, one of the things that I want to talk about is when you have a company and that company is, you're onto it. Things are happening. You know, there's 2 or 3 different options that people have when they're building a profitable business. Mm-hmm. You know, one of them, and I, I'm going to say my CPA is probably in this group, is to, I'm going to put it bluntly, fall face forward on your desk. Mm-hmm. You know, a second way that people who are founders of profitable companies may choose to exit or go forward is to leave it to the next generations. But if you really have something that is powerful and something that's making a difference in people's lives, you know, probably the very best option you can take might not be the easiest, but it is to make a public offering. And in a public offering, you give the opportunity not just for a handful of private investors, but for thousands and thousands of individual people to be able to be part of the growth of that company for years to come. And our guest today, Jim, is actually planning that. But before we get into all of that, we want to talk about what it is that makes what he does so special, right?
Hmm. Oh my goodness. When it comes to purifying water, this is much more than just some little simple filter that you've heard about for a long, long time. It is so much more than that. You're talking about the ability to have healthy water, wherever you go. I mean, we were talking about motorhomes and campers having his system on their vehicles. They could drive down to Mexico and drink the water there and not have any problems at all. It filters out all these impurities, viruses, you name it. He also has the ability to be able to add hydrogen to the water, but I don't want to get too far ahead. Let's bring him on the show.
Well, folks, and I'm just going to be open with you. Complete full disclosure here.
Mm-hmm.
I am the black sheep here. I'm having a little trouble picking up on the audio feed on the show. So Jim's going to be making some pointers to me and things like that along the way, possibly. But we have a very special guest here today. Our guest is Owen Boyd of topinhealth.com. And here I'm gonna actually put that banner up because I created it just so that you would have the information available to you. Mm-hmm. And what we're going to be talking about is his water purification system. It's industry shaking, folks. It's industry shaking not only in what it does and how advanced it is, but the fact that it cost a fraction of what some of the big name companies out there have been offering for years in water purification. Now, that doesn't just make it a really good way to get rid of things like bacteria and viruses and chemicals that get in your water and different hard water elements. It makes it where people in houses at almost any income level can have those kinds of values added for their water. And we're going to talk about why that's important in just a minute. But it also brings it down to a place where it starts becoming available on a global basis for people in countries that may or may not have ever been able to afford to have something that actually made their water healthy and clean and pure. And the process that he's developed doesn't just do that, but it actually has the ability to add different health benefits into the water. I'm going to let him talk about that in just a minute.
Yeah. Well, first of all,
sharing today, I want you to know this. This is not a this isn't a hyperbole or pitch kind of show. This is what he's sharing with you. This is being monitored very carefully because he is going to be going public very soon with this in a public offering. And for those of you who don't know, that means he is under scrutiny for everything that he says, everything that he puts out. And if he talks about the things and the values that this can bring and the technology and the advancements and the things like that, I suggest that you take some notes and ask some questions because we're going to be we've posted there the information on how you can actually find out more about it. So Owen, welcome to the show.
Yes. And Owen, we're glad to have you here. I know.
Thank goodness I can hear you, even though I can't always hear Jim.
That's selective hearing.
You're the focus of the show today, so that's what matters, right, Jim?
Absolutely. And Emerson's got selective hearing today. That's what it is, ladies and gentlemen. But we're so glad that you're here, Owen.
Go ahead.
I just like for Owen just to share a little bit about who he is, his background, maybe about a minute, and we'll go from there.
Well, my background is I've been doing water treatment for nearly 40 years. Just got curious about water treatment when I found out how much money I was spending treating water going into a power plant about 40 years ago. And I have natural curiosity, so I'm kind of a natural born researcher. So, read paper after paper after paper, whether they're related to water or not. But that broad understanding of of science and what's going on out there, not just in chemistry, but what's going on in the human body at the cellular response level. Those are the things that have kind of enabled me to bring together products that are going to provide you healthy water, almost regardless of the source. And I say almost because the only thing I don't do is seawater, and I can explain why I don't do seawater, because it's just too expensive.
Yeah. Well, anybody that's ever had hard water can understand why trying to purify seawater would probably be very, very expensive.
Yeah.
But water, water is essential to life. We're 80-90% water ourselves. It's the minerals and the elements that we need for our bodies are often found in water, especially for our brain and for our digestive system and for our circulatory system and others. Water is such a crucial element. It's one of those things we don't think about, It's one of those things that we turn on the tap and the water comes out, at least in the first world. You turn on the tap and the water comes out, and we don't really think about it any more than we think about when we flip on a switch that the lights come on, right? But there's so much more to it than that. How really, how was it, you touched on it, but how was it that you really got interested in pursuing something that, frankly, a lot of companies out there have some type of program or product for companies or municipal water facilities or for homes that do some type of purification. And by the way, while you're at it, explain the difference between purification and water softening for those viewers who may not understand the difference.
Sure. Water softening essentially is the removal of calcium and manganese and swapping that over with sodium. So you're taking calcium out of the water, putting sodium back in the water. And the technology that's used for that is ion exchange, and that's exchange calcium for sodium. That's water softening. And in terms of water purification means exactly what it says. Purifying water means the highest purity would be nothing but H2O molecules in the water. And if that's all your human body took in, that would actually damage your health. So we need to have minerals. It's why we eat food for mineral uptake. Same thing with hydration. Hydration occurs more appropriately with minerals in the water, where the reverse can be true with super pure water. You can actually reduce minerals by taking minerals out of bones and out of cells and out of your body through either defecation or urination.
Yeah, I learned years ago when I was working with an anti-corrosive chemicals company. We think of acid as being, something very corrosive, but the most corrosive element in the universe is probably water, because it just leaches out of everything it touches normally, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, water can be extremely corrosive based on what's in it, whether it's too low of a pH or too high of a pH.
Right. Mm-hmm. But it also, because of that, it's also an excellent carrier into our cells, into our bodies, of the minerals and the many of the nutrients that we need. It's not just a bad thing, folks. It's a good thing as well, because it has the ability to do both, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you think of the human body. Essentially, we evolved from the seas, and seas are loaded with salt, loaded with minerals, and our body water. That even though we think of all water in cells, you essentially have a body of water moving up and down your body all day long outside of cells. Mm-hmm. Those are loaded with minerals.
Mm-hmm. You know, when it comes to water
There are some
purification,
issues with many of the methods that are used, though, for purifying water. Am I right?
Mhm.
Yeah, we've been developing water treatment technologies over the years, and I mean over the years, long, long ago. Probably first water treatment technologies are the late 1800s, other than
Mm.
just raw filtration, using sand filters. But we started chlorinating water using hypochlorous acid in water many, many years ago.
Mhm.
HOCl in water, so. That was done started in the 1800s and evolved over time. So we're now chlorinating uh, water almost globally,
Mhm.
which creates other pathogens in water because those are reactive chemicals, they're oxidants, and they react with other minerals,
Mhm.
to create, unfortunately, other toxic materials that have long-term problems with them. But we
Mhm.
tend to develop water as sort of what I call the toxin of the day. So as our analytical techniques and our understanding of the human's body's use of different things that you'll find in water and soil, we've had technical guys go out and said, "Ooh, I'm going to spend a lot of money to figure out how to remove arsenic or
Mm.
uranium." So you develop these specific technologies to develop one toxin at a time. And now what we
Mm.
have are systems that are, like you said, a water softener. A water softener removes calcium, doesn't remove bacteria. As a matter of fact, it actually provides a very nice environment to create bacteria. uh,
Mm.
or add to any incoming bacteria you have. So they are
Mhm.
quite prolific at generating bacteria,
Mhm.
but they don't remove arsenic. I mean,
Mm.
they don't remove mercury, lead, you know, um,
Mhm.
bacteria, virus, cysts, spores. I mean, it goes on what they don't remove. So then we're going to spend a whole bunch of time developing more technologies to remove all these other things we're finding.
Mhm.
And what we have is an engineering problem, not just a chemistry problem.
Mhm.
So makes
I
for
want to
One,
come back around to that, but I know Jim
yeah,
has a question he wants to
yeah,
ask.
a comment.
Yep.
One of the things that really concerned me, ladies and gentlemen, after having a heart attack, open heart surgery, and 4 bypasses, is when Owen started sharing with me about the water system that I've got there. I'm not going to name the company; they're well known, but they use salt. And the very last thing that a heart patient like me needs is more sodium in my water. So that's what made my ears perk up. And Owen, if you would share a little bit about the harmful effects of, sodium in the water for a patient like me and why your system is so much better, it's so much more healthier, isn't it?
Yep. Well, we took the approach, water softeners, not only are you taking you're taking two really good elements out, calcium and magnesium. Your body
Hmm.
needs calcium and it needs a ton of magnesium
Hmm.
if you want to stay healthy and fight off virus. Um, a water softener removes it all. There's nothing left, just sodium. Now, if you had a lot of calcium and a lot of sodium, and it exchanged a lot of calcium and magnesium, and thereby exchanging a lot of sodium, that high level of sodium is certainly unhealthy for you. If
Hmm.
you have moderately hard water, yeah, you're probably okay drinking the amount of sodium that would be produced. But here's where it irks me to think about these ion exchange systems that are doing ion exchange. First off, they create wastewater. About 3% of the incoming water they touch goes down your drain. The other thing is every single pound that you buy, all those 40-pound bags of salt,
Hmm.
that all ends up in the environment one way or the other, not just in your body.
Wow.
Okay, because these systems they have to reactivate because after they've exchanged sodium, they run out of sodium. That's why you have salt there. So it reloads. Okay, it backwashes, takes all the calcium and manganese that it's exchanged out. That goes down
Hmm.
your drain, and
Hmm.
then more sodium, of course, with all the other ions that like sodium
Hmm.
ions it has, and sodium chloride. So those all get exchanged to refresh that so it can continue its operations over and over and over again. But they all end up in your aquifers, and that's causing issues across many, many states now.
Oh
Because
yeah.
aquifers are now being contaminated to such
Salt
an
water.
effect they have brackish water, and they
Yep.
can't use them for
Mm.
irrigation, and can't use them to like water plants or golf courses.
That's true.
So it's
So
not,
true.
you know, it doesn't meet my criteria of mass balance. You know, not create another problem by solving one.
Hmm.
Jim, did that kind of cover it?
Oh yeah, definitely. Because I was talking about salt and my heart. I don't know why Emerson can't hear me. It might be selective hearing.
You know, when I was doing some of the research, you kind of pointed this out, I think, but some of the technology that we're talking about that's being used out there for these individual areas that they're working on purifying the water is some of it literally is hundreds or even thousands of years old.
Yep.
I think one of the more recent ones I found was about 25 or 30 years old. So it's not that. It seems to me like the whole industry has been comfortable. Is that an okay word to use there?
Yeah, it goes just beyond comfortable, and they've made a great investment in developing technologies. So you try to maximize your return. That takes time.
Yeah, definitely. So, real briefly, we have these issues. We have technology that pulls out minerals that we need in our body. We have technology that only addresses real specific things we don't want in our body, like you pointed out, arsenic, for example.
Mhm.
We have technology that is dumping a lot of salt into our aquifer. And folks, I'm here from Florida. I'm in Florida. Our aquifer is being increasingly loaded with salt, which is a big problem because all of our irrigation, all of the water we drink, ultimately comes from that aquifer.
Mm.
And when it's in balance, the things that Owen was talking about, where certain things like calcium and magnesium and other minerals are being, as in the filtering process that's natural, that can take years for the water to filter down into that aquifer, is being added to it that enrich our body. So, Owen, how is the process that you've worked on and developed different? And how does it overcome all of these different things that you've talked about?
So essentially, what we've developed is a base media, starting to think at the molecular level and the atomic level, where we actually make high capacity fibers, and these fibers are 3 nanometers in diameter. So to put that number in perspective,
Tell everybody what that means. What does that mean in regards to,
yeah, so
like,
that
a
means
human hair?
yeah, so a 3 nanometer fiber, if I wrap 50,000 of those together, that would equal 1 human hair at the
Wow.
diameter of a single strand of head.
Wow.
So, we take those things, those are laid into pleated filters. So it gives us an enormous amount of capacity. But where we do things quite differently, and when I say enormous capacity, if I took what you would refer as like a standard micron filter, 5 micron filter as an example. Okay, so a 5 micron filter may last for 30 or 40 days, 50 days in somebody's home, depending on, how many suspended solids they have coming into that system.
Now, this would be in a traditional system, like the pitchers that you get, or an inline system that people may have behind their refrigerator or for their whole house.
Yeah, they refer to it as mechanical filtration.
Okay.
Okay, so it's just mechanically removing, items that are bigger than the little holes that they have in these elements.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the capacity of those before they wear out is something called dirt holding capacity. They're typically about 5 to 8 milligrams per square inch of media, where our square inch number is 286 milligrams. So it gives you an idea. There's a tremendous amount of increased capacity in our filtration systems. So you also have in filtration, mechanical filtration, standard, okay, which is what I call the art of little holes. Ultrafiltration, nanofiltration, reverse osmosis, that's pretty much, their art. And the way they're designed typically in filters is, imagine a wall of cement and you have little holes drilled through these walls of cement. Okay, the littler the hole, the smaller the hole, the more contaminant you may take out, including the point when you get to a seawater RO, they're actually filtering out that sodium. Okay, so that instead of that brick wall, you can imagine water pushing up against that. It's going to hit hard. It requires a lot of pressure to get through that. And there's also a lot of waste, because you create these bounce effects where, you get a lot of waste where water's essentially bypassing your filter. So that's kind of problematic, where we're kind of like trees in a forest with all kinds of limbs hanging down in the water, where when water hits it, it all flows through. You get some turbulence, which is kind of good to help us filter water. And then we take those little fibers and we lay those into sheets of paper, and then we take the sheets of paper and we misalign all the holes on purpose. Okay, I know it sounds all complex, but when you finally see it, it comes in something like this, which is just a standard pleated filter. It would look the same as a lot of filters that you might see on any shelf in any hardware store, but it's quite different. We build upon that. We put those filters in typically in a 3-filter housing. So because I have enormous capacity, I can alter what those filters do by uploading different things to it during filtration. And what I filter out becomes a permanent part of the filter, and what I filter out becomes something that filters out more things. Like if I were to add iron oxide and filter the iron oxide out, okay, or titanium dioxide, both of those are known to take arsenic out of water. Well, now my filter starts taking arsenic out of water.
Wow.
It's like that. And it's really simple. So we have a lot of things that we do, and what we found is the systems are really scalable. So we stuck it in a little water bottle like that. So you can take that water bottle.
You mean you can actually have that in just a bottle, like a bottle you would take to the gym? You can do all of that?
Well, we started putting out whole house systems, and so you could run your water, and we're going to give you not just purified water, but healthy water, because I'm going to leave all the calcium in. I'm going to leave all the magnesium in. Okay. And a lot of people would go, oh, you can't do that. My glasses are going to be spotted. Nope. I'm going to alter the chemistry of the calcium and magnesium ion so they no longer can form magnesium carbonate or calcium carbonate and stick to things. So they'll just pass through my system as I adjust it. And I do that by uploading a chemistry into the water that'll adjust the calcium ions in the water. But that little filter, you can take that. When we were building these systems for people's homes, it kind of dawned on me. I said, well, this is really great, but you know what? People travel. So, what if somebody has a system in their home they head down to Tijuana? It's like, nobody's going to drink the water from the U.S. without getting pretty ill in Tijuana. Drink it from this, and you're fine. It'll remove all the bacteria, all the pesticides. I mean, just a real quick hit list. Okay, with this little tiny filter in here. And by the way, how tiny is that little filter? Okay, you can see it right there in front of me. That's how big it is. That'll filter 300 gallons of water. Okay, so that means it'll fill that system about 1,000 times before you have to replace it. Okay, that'll filter out bacteria, virus, cysts, spores, heavy metals, pesticides, pharmaceuticals, PFAS, which are all your volatile organic chemicals, and make your water taste good.
That's
Other than
important.
that, it doesn't do much of anything.
Yeah. You know, a lot of people don't realize that, you know, in the municipal water systems, their focus is on to provide potable water.
Correct.
And there's a big difference between potable water, which means you can drink it, than the healthy water that Owen is talking about. And would you like to share some thoughts on that, please?
Sure. Well, if you're on standard tap water, your water
Hmm.
is being supplied by a municipality. It must meet the requirements of the Clean Water Act. So they're regulated on what I call primary pathogens and secondary pathogens.
Hmm.
So what they have to do is make sure that that water meets all your primary standards. Secondary, they don't. They just have to notify you that there's a problem. So they have to remove the bacteria, and then they chlorinate the water so they make sure it doesn't form again.
Hmm.
Um, they do not have to remove viruses. That's not in their bailiwick, and nor do they. But things like pesticides, they're not regulated for pesticides. Pharmaceuticals, they're not regulated to remove pharmaceuticals. So they don't, because everybody's concerned about the cost of water.
Mm.
The secondary things that they really work on are things like phosphate, sulfate, iron, magnesium, odor, and color. Those are the kinds of secondary standards. Your primary things are, lead, mercury, arsenic. These are things you drink a little bit of that and you can get very, very sick, and it
Mm.
can be potentially deadly. To develop healthy water, I couldn't have people, drinking pesticides. So for folks that are on municipal systems, we have a relatively small system. If they're on well water, that means I've got to do the lion's share of the work that a municipality will be doing, plus my own. So we have a larger system that goes into a well supplied, a private well supplied home. But still,
Hmm.
no. Our key is I have to be able to pass water and do all this work. Our design guidelines. I need to do this at 6 gallons a minute normal flow, 20 gallons a minute peak flow,
Hmm.
and I have to do that at all less than 10 psi.
Mm.
A single filter like this, that's in a 3 filter system. This little guy, that's sitting inside the water bottle, okay, for filtration, 1 psi to draw water through it, and
Yeah.
it's still removing all those toxins. That's
Mm.
kind of unheard of. The other thing is they have
Hmm.
no power requirement.
I was going to ask about that.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, if you have the water bottle there and it works,
Yeah, it's nice that there's a couple of YouTube videos you can link to, but you can literally squeeze water through this. And I always suggest to people put some dirty water, fill it up in a puddle, and then look at it, shake it, and you'll see that it's filthy water. Squeeze it into a nice glass, and you'll see it's pristine, clean, and odorless.
Mm.
well, and the first time that you and I talked, I shared with you about how I had been involved in a presentation by folks who had invented a straw for kids in third world countries who might stop at a ditch and just try to drink water out of the ditch, and a lot of us here in the first world, you know, you know, the number one cause of death among children, especially, is unclean water. Because
Mm.
water, by unclean, I mean all of these different things that Owen is talking about that can leach into the water. And we're
Mm.
not immune to any of that. In fact, during the COVID crisis, so many municipalities and reporting systems just were not up to reporting accurately what was going on. That one of the things that they were able to do was go to the water systems and find out how bad is the virus in the water because the water was full of it.
Mhm.
Mm.
So to have a system that will kill bacteria, will address viral information and attack that. We'll attack pesticides. We'll filter all these things out along with particulates, with dirt and grime and mold and things like that, is a game changer. It's a game changer.
Yeah, we do things like bacteria. Typically, if you want a high level of bacterial removal, you need a lot of pressure, to do it. And
because it's so tiny, it's microscopic.
Yeah, sure. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So we're doing. Okay, so get this: 99.9999999% removal of bacteria at 1 psi.
Wow.
But you can't get 100%. What's the matter with you?
Yeah, I know. Well, nobody can get 100% because that's the margin of error of the testing protocol. Literally, highest you can go is 9 nines, and we're at that high level.
You know, folks, those of you who have no water purification, or those of you who have, say, a water softener, which isn't doing this, any of the things that can leach into the system, things he was talking about on municipal systems, lead from old pipes that they're using, pesticides that are coming in, different chemicals, people throwing pills down the drain, and getting into the system, and the system doing its very best to try to clean out what it can, and then pumping it through the water, and throwing in chloride or chlorine or fluoride to try to kill anything that it can't filter out. Having this in your home is life-changing, especially if you have a medical issue of any type. If you have, some type of autoimmune system issue or anything at all, to be able to, and it sounds like I'm going to get off my soapbox. It sounds like I'm pitching your system, and I'm pitching the idea, folks, that you need to take matters in your own hands and have that level of protection that you're not going to just, have because you don't think about it, It's there and it's real. Jim?
Yeah, thank you, Emerson. I'm ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry, Emerson and I can hear him, he can't hear me. But one of the things Emerson was really excited about, because living in Florida, when a hurricane comes in and the water system and the way it just floods everything, one of the things that people hear all the time is be sure and boil the water to remove impurities. And Owen's system attached, we have it attached to your house and all that. Game over. Am I right on that, Owen?
Yeah, you can fill your water bottle, rivers, lakes, streams, puddles, rainwater, and you'll get as higher purity of water as you get in actually beyond bottled water, because on a regulatory basis, they have weaker standards to meet than your municipalities do.
Wow.
But
that's amazing.
One kind of interesting that people I don't think really understand is the vast majority of your water that we consume in the United States, whether it's your own private well or whether it's a municipal well, they're all coming from wells that have been drilled. And any contaminant that's been sitting in that aquifer, you're going to get. And things like you think, we haven't used DDT for 50 years, so it's not a problem. Well, DDT has been rising in aquifers for the last 50 years. It's still going up in concentration. And that's literally because we're depleting aquifers. So it sits there. It takes a long time for those toxins to get out of the aquifer, which is why you need filtration. We just have to treat the water. Things like the pharmaceuticals. Not only do people flush pharmaceuticals down the toilet
all the time,
sewage treatment plants, they don't take out pharmaceuticals. So anything that goes to that sewage treatment plant, whether it came in your urine or whether it came in a pill being flushed, all that excess, that's all being put into aquifers.
Wow.
Whether it's surface discharge or lake discharge, or like, if you've got a septic tank, you're doing your own discharge in your own yard.
Hmm.
You know,
It's really amazing, isn't it, Emerson?
how
I
does
mean, I
your
know.
approach, and I know you've talked a little about it, but how does your approach really avoid all of this? How is your approach different, and how does it compare? For companies or for homes, how does it compare in cost? Because everybody ultimately has to look at that too. And what does it take in maintenance? Because I don't know about you, Jim, but I mean, I've loaded bags of salt, just for water softeners every single month, and
Hmm.
and the maintenance cost kind of gets hidden sometimes, but it ain't cheap.
Yeah, I
And
just
when you're
did
talking about
5.
big systems,
Mhm.
when
I
you're
just
talking
did.
about companies and corporations and
Mhm.
hospitals and municipalities,
Mhm.
Well,
how does your system match up, and how do you compare with all of that?
Go ahead.
so we design our systems to require one maintenance cycle a year. So you
A
just change
Mm.
year,
a year. That's it,
one a
Wow.
year.
one a year. We have enormous capacity, so the systems
Now, is that just for a home, or is that for a hospital? Is that for
would
an office building? What?
uh, that's that's for everybody, with the exception of people that run their water at full flow 24/7, and there are people that do that, manufacturers. So
Okay,
Mm.
they're not going to get a year; they may get 60 days.
okay,
So
fair
but
enough.
they'll they'll use their systems. We design them to last 24 months. So our
Wow.
margin of safety is 50%.
Mm.
So yeah,
Excuse me.
the fact that we require no energy
Mm.
saves an awful lot of money. There's no wastewater, so it does not have to be connected to your sewer outlet, which most other systems do. These are all, uh, you know, quite frankly, monstrous savings.
Mm.
Now, I talked a little bit earlier about how people design for one toxin at a time. And that one toxin at a time approach means typically for a whole house system, you're going to have 3 or 4 systems in there, okay, all with controllers, okay, that are all have unique power supplies to them, and then usually a front controller controlling those 4 so they operate as one unit. But they're not really one unit, and they're not really one supplier.
Mm.
And we don't have any of that to contend with. About the only thing I will do is, if you're in Arizona, you may get you'll get the 3 housing system, but you're going to get different filters. I'm going to modify these, because I'm going to give you a better attack for hardness,
Mm.
and I'll remove arsenic because it's going to be there if you live in Arizona. So
Wow.
I can
Why is that?
I can target different things based on your zip code.
Mm.
Are you just using Arizona as an example, or why is that?
Arizona's wells are typically 1,500 to 2,000 feet, so they're
Okay.
way down there. So you get
Hmm.
pretty high iron loading, and you could have a lot of magnesium. So
Mm.
I've got to put more of that into my product so it lasts a year out there like it would last, in Massachusetts, that doesn't have the
Hmm.
hardness issue.
Hmm.
So, but I know that going into the game, and I'm able to, easily modify the filters.
Yeah, when I lived in
Yeah.
Arizona, my well was over 600 foot deep.
Yep.
And
Understand.
even then, I had to be conservative with my water because I wasn't tapped into an underground river. But the people that, like you say, they go down deeper and deeper and deeper in those wells, my goodness gracious, that's a tremendous advantage for them.
Well,
You
here's the
know?
thing. It's like the more, when you start adding up what you need to take out, okay, it's like, I took it all out. Where do I put it? Once I've
Mm.
taken it out, where do I put it? I put it right back into the sewage treatment plant. That's how all these systems are designed. That's
Mm.
why you need a wastewater discharge from your house. That all goes back to the sewage treatment plant. So the sewage treatment plant keeps getting hit with higher and higher loads of toxin.
Mm.
We don't do that. Everything we take out remains on the filter as a part of the filter. So we're recycling stuff to either a landfill, or in the case of like PFAS, you don't want that. Frankly, you don't want it in the landfill. So it's actually with another technology that we're almost done developing, is we can oxidize the PFAS so it becomes water again.
Wow.
PFAS.
Yep.
Share what that means with our viewers.
PFAS, PFAS, and PFOA are three categories of volatile organic compounds in water that are carcinogens. And they also, the more they study it, the more they find it's toxic. It was comprised when we first started making Teflon. It's in firefighting foam, insulation. I mean, it's nonstick pans. It's everywhere. It has invaded the planet, unfortunately. It's been detected on the North Pole, the South Pole, and it is in 50% of all water taps in the United States at levels that are going to have to be they're going to have to be focused to remediate it.
And the danger in these?
The big danger is at very, very low concentrations. And when I say low, you're talking like parts per trillion. So this is like a grain of rice in 1,000 football stadiums. That's a part per trillion. And we have to be able to find that and remove it at 95% effectivity. And
the danger of these PFAS to your health, because this is something that
it's
every single viewer out there should be concerned about, because this is coming to you, it's coming to your family, to your grandparents, to your children, to your grandchildren, every single one of you, every single day, every single thing that you have that has water in it.
Well, none of us wants to get cancer. And
Amen.
If you look at all you have to do, you don't have to be a mathematical genius. Go back to 1900 and check the rates of cancer rates per 1,000 as compared to today. And the numbers are shocking. So we have, and it's not that all of a sudden we're aging differently than we used to do 1,000 years ago. What's happening now is we're getting bombarded with toxins, and we have to get rid of them. And the number one way to get them into your body, frankly, is either breathing them or drinking water loaded with toxins. Because if there's toxins in air, they're going to be in your water. For sure.
Oh yeah.
Let me ask you about something else that and only because I'm so aware of the issue of it out there, and that is microplastics.
Yeah.
And how does the filter, because that's in us. They say that every month or 2 months we end up absorbing about the equivalent of a credit card worth of plastic from our environment, from our water that we drink, from food that we eat, and things like that. How does your system help with that?
Yeah, it totally removes microplastics. Microplastics, they're pretty easy because they're just mechanical removal. So you just filter them out. And our misalignment of all the pores through 32 layers of this 3 nanometer fiber, they're all totally removed.
Wow. That's really something.
Brilliant. Just
really
that
is.
whole little mixing and matching of where the holes are by itself. That's brilliant.
Yeah, it was based on a bunch of unique ideas, but and then just sort of creating this web, and then being able to filter things out using that web and have that create new filter technologies is kind of our state of the art here. That's novel. Is we can kind of, like, as an example, let's say that 5 years from now there's a new toxin of the day. We can figure that out in a couple of weeks, and our consumers that have our product, when they get their next set of filters, that toxin will be removed.
Wow.
I think we're going to be the only people in the industry that have updatable filters.
Well, an awful lot of the things when COVID, when they were designing the shots to help people not have COVID, okay, or to resist it. One of the things people didn't realize was that was technology that had been being developed for a number of years, so they could just adapt it to the newest virus of the moment.
Yep.
So what I'm hearing you say is you're anticipating being able to very quickly adapt for any company or individual, family, or whatever, with this system to whatever the latest, greatest challenges that we're having to deal with on that kind of a level, so that we can take care of our own family in our own home and have peace of mind over that.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I'm going to go one step beyond that too. It's like, so I can filter things out by filtering them out, but I can also add things to the filter and filter them in. So
Tell me about that.
I can adjust your health. I mean,
what do you mean by adjust my health?
Well, people need minerals. Your immune system works on how much hydrogen and oxygen are in your cells. Cells that have sort of lower oxygen levels. The people with low oxygen tend to be sicker than those that have higher oxygen levels, and that's because your cells create what's called a superoxide anion, which is kind of the first part of the white blood cells. When they're called into action, those white blood cells are going to go attack a pathogen. And that superoxide anion is converted into a peroxide and then converted into a hypochlorous molecule. And it's that molecule that actually kills the virus and bacteria in your system. Wow. So the fewer...
So that's where the hypobaric chambers that they use like in cancer treatment are the treatments that they do in dentist offices to help speed the healing and things like that.
Yep. So we'll be able to make adjustments,
in this system.
Right in the system. Imagine a slow release of vitamin C and vitamin D3.
Ooh.
Wow.
It's not that hard to do.
I'm wondering, Jim, why people haven't, why others haven't thought about this before, right?
Yeah, I know. Go ahead.
Listen, I was doing this for about 23 years before I even had a clue, because I was doing what everybody else did. Let's purify the water. And then it was like you start learning about, human physiology, and you're going, wait a minute, I need to bring this a step further. I've got to make water healthy. That brings a whole different way of thinking about how to attack a pathogen.
There is so much more
difference.
Yeah, there is so much more.
Water is just really generic.
Yeah.
But changing it to bringing health. That is a major transition. Jim?
I was just going to say, ladies and gentlemen, being able to take it to that next level. We're going to invite Owen back on another show because we want to go a little bit more in detail about that, and also for him to share a little bit more about his water system, the filtrations, how you can get it, that sort of thing. I know he's getting ready to expand and go exponentially as far as going public. And this would be a great opportunity for you to share with others, not only for health benefits, but also financial benefits. Am I correct on that, Owen?
You're correct.
Oh,
You're
okay.
Correct. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, we've put ourselves open into the public markets because we think we can grow incredibly quickly, and our philosophy of maintaining human health, and then on a mass balance basis to protect environmental health, which of course is related to human health. Having those two things as a part of our design criteria is going to make good product.
Absolutely. Emerson, I want you to talk about your, please relay this to Emerson. I only talked about the Green Chamber of Commerce, how important that'd be to them. If you would, Owen, tell him what I said.
Emerson, Jim was saying, could you speak on the green commerce?
Oh, sure. As many of the viewers know, I'm a member of the board of directors of the U.S. Green Chamber of Commerce. And one of the major issues that we deal with all over the world is in having pure water. It's probably, in many studies have shown it to be the number one cause of many of the diseases and discomforts, even here in the first world that we have. And to be able to have something that is affordable has been out of reach for so many millions and millions of people around the world. So the U.S. Green Chamber is very interested in being able to have a method that we're able to have pure water, because there's so many toxins, there's so many different things that affect the supplies of our water. Here in this country, we're seeing it visually in the West right now with the problems that they're having, but it's all over. It's all over. So yes.
Yeah, absolutely, ladies and gentlemen. Also think about getting in on a ground floor opportunity as powerful as this to create health, and for the U.S. Green Chamber of Commerce to be behind that to promote healthy water, clean environment. This is a win-win-win situation. Our time is gone, and I just want to say on behalf of Emerson, even though he didn't hear a word I could say today on the show, but on behalf of Emerson and Owen, we want to personally thank you for being with us today. Be sure and get in touch with Owen. We're going to have him back again on to talk more about these healthy benefits and have Emerson share information about the Green Chamber of Commerce. But on behalf of Owen and Emerson, we want this, all three of us, we sincerely hope and pray that you and your loved ones are healthy, happy, and blessed in all areas of your life. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.